Hello, this is Leo Gray on behalf of Kristen Olson's Urban Yoga Center in Palm Springs. Visit us online at urbanyoga.org for Kristen Olson's Urban Yoga Center on Facebook to check out the schedule of daily offerings. Stop by the tip jar to make contributions. And for the YouTubers, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This will be a shorter video, which is what we do for you when no one shows up to a Zoom class. Instead of doing the 1 hour Zoom class with live participants, we make a shorter video so the folks who access our material on YouTube have some shorter offerings to get to. So today we're going to be working through some standing balances. Now, a little disclaimer at first, you might not necessarily do what I'm about to do as a practice unto itself. You can if you're really feeling up for a lot of leg and core work. But it's going to be a lot on the legs if you do all of these. So I'll show you some different things that you can work in to strengthen your legs and improve your balance and strengthen your core. But just keep in mind, you might not want to do all of this at once like I'm about to do. If you practice daily like I do, if you're practicing for years and you feel strong and confident about it, maybe you do want to do this as a practice. Maybe you'll do everything I do twice or twice as long. So we'll start with maybe the more popular or simple or more accessible tree pose, possibly the favorite or most common one. And I'll show you some different ways to go into the pose. And of course, like I always do, some variations, options. I like to start with hands at heart. And I always like to start by shifting side to side with my feet planted and setting my eyes on a fixed point that's not going to move. We have a word for this, it's called drishti. Drishti is the gaze point, that's what you're looking at. Now the other option, if you don't want to look at something stationary, or maybe you're outdoors and there isn't anything stationary, it's windy and all the trees are moving, and birds are flying by you. You can just let your eyes unfocus, let your gaze go fuzzy or watery, blurry, and you can stare in one place even if everything's moving. Bring your weight into one leg, and I'll show you first the gentler way, more accessible way. Turn your toes out so your feet are perpendicular. Then bring your heel up onto your ankle. Call this the kickstand foot. Now, no matter what placement you end up using for this foot, this knee is always going to be tracking out to the side. So this right here would be the simplest, most accessible form of tree pose. And I should say, any of the standing balances, you can step over by the wall or a steady piece of furniture. Pretend there's one here, like a desk or a chair or a dresser, and have that support there to hold on to. You can keep one hand on the wall the whole time if you like, or you can just use it a little, use it as needed, use it when you start to fall. I'm not going to do that. I know I can do this without grabbing the wall, so I'm going to step into the center of the frame for sake of neater video. So this kickstand foot, you can keep pressing your hands together and pressing them to your sternum. This draws energy to the midline and can stabilize the whole posture. If you want to play with going further, you can bring the sole of your foot onto your calf. Knees still tracking out to the side, and now I start to wobble. So you could grab onto the wall here or the furniture. Now you can, with practice, put your foot on your thigh. You don't ever want to press your knee sideways. Your knee isn't made to go that way. Your knee moves this way, don't push it that way. So if in trying to get hung up, if in trying to keep your foot on your thigh, you find pressing on your knee, stop and go back to your calf. And with any of our standing balances, you can come out anytime for a rest. Maybe you decide to come out because you need a rest, maybe you just fall. It took me 2 years to get my foot to stay on my thigh like this. I actually gave up on doing it. I was always doing my foot on the calf. And one day in class, I was saying to the students that some people put their foot on their thigh, mine never stays there. And after I put it there, it stayed there. So that's how it happened for me. Probably had been 6 months before I tried. So even without coming up this high, the pose has been deepening, the hip has been opening more. And without really specifically aiming to, I had developed the ability to do this. Now your hands can stay here the whole time, or you are a tree, and trees come in all kinds of shapes. You can do anything at all with your hands and arms here, including grab the wall if you start to fall. You can play with movement, if there's breeze in your branches, you can aim at being a more still kind of tree. You can explore vines. Release your fingers and stretch up, stretch out like this. Lots of different options there. You can fold your arms behind your back. Some people can put their hands like this behind their back. I can occasionally do it. I'm not going to include that today, but it's called reverse prayer. When you do this with your hands behind you, it's a lot of force in your hands, wrists, and forearms. Now, with any standing balance, like I said, we can come out and we all fall. That's part of the practice. Yes, it's fun to try not to. When you're going to fall, if you can, exert some control. Try to fall slowly. Now, don't sacrifice a good landing for the sake of speed. If you're going to fall quick, it's important to get the foot on the ground. But as you start to fall, whatever control you can muster, when you can come out slowly, there's strength to be had in that slowness. So I like to come out of tree by pivoting the knee forward and then letting the foot down. And then it's good to shake the leg. You're standing up. Sometimes it's good to shake the other one. Shake whatever you want. It's okay to do it. Dance. Now that was a long time on that one leg. For the sake of making a tutorial. You might not want to do it that long, or maybe you do. Maybe you do this a lot. You could always do each leg multiple times. Do right, left, alternate. For the sake of balance, it's good to do both legs. So I showed you coming in like this. The other way you can come in, it's more challenging and maybe more fun depending on where you're at, is to bring the weight into the other leg, lift the knee, and then open the hips. So this can facilitate the higher foot placement. I can't quite get my foot on my thigh without using my hand. I almost can. Go from here, I can get my toes. I'm above the knee, but I can't quite get my foot to sit in a place it's going to stay. But the practice continues to deepen. You always want to keep the standing knee soft. I think I neglected to say that for the first one. And you can absolutely come out anytime and start over. As my dear friend Becky Thompson always said, if you fall, you're human. If you get up, you're human. And when you do the second side, you don't have to do the same arm expression as the first side. You can do anything you like. See what your body wants, play around. You can always change your mind, come down lower. I'm sweating a lot, so my foot was getting slippery on my leg there. You can always change your mind and come lower. You can grab your wall or grab your furniture. And remember, no matter where the foot is, you want the knee to track out to the side. We're opening the frontal hip as well as working on all this balancing, strengthening stuff for the legs and the pull. And the great thing about playing with balances like this and strengthening all that stuff and falling, practicing falling, is that with continued practice like this and strengthening all that stuff, all those different areas, when it comes to actual falling, accidental falling, when you're not on your mat, playing around and practicing, is that I found I fall less often. I used to live in New England and walk a couple of large dogs in snowy streets and walking up and down hills with a couple of Labrador retrievers tugging on leashes. It's challenging to keep your footing. And I found, as I practiced more and more, that I fell less and less. I had a lot more almosts and a lot fewer falls. So going on now from tree pose to a couple other standing poses that start the same way. We can shifting side to side. Actually, I think I skipped the shifting on that second tree, but that's okay. So this first one is done often as an alternative to pigeon pose. Pigeon pose is a deep hip opener that we do face down on the floor with one leg folded under us. So it's a lot of force on the knee and the hip, so it's not accessible to some folks. So one way to explore The hip similarly, without that force of the body weight, pressing down on the folded leg is like this. We start like this, like we're going to come into tree, then we cross the ankle and turn the knee down and flex the toes up. And then as if you're going to sit down on a bench behind you, you release downward. So it's all about the lower body, releasing in the front of the hip and the back of the knee and the front of the ankle. And I start to lose my balance, so I correct, catch myself, start over, and I could reach out to the wall anytime. Think about the elbows approaching the knee and the foot. Now, I never know until I'm doing this how low I'm gonna go. When you can get this contact with your arms, it's really nicely steadying. And sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. Maybe it's only gonna be one on this side today. Maybe it's both, it's both. So that's a lot steadier with that contact. And if you get that contact, you can play. So typically you'd come out by slowly straightening up, uncrossing, releasing, shift down. When you can get low enough to get that contact, you can play with this fun way to come out. A little variation here, where you release your hands, hold your leg, and then come up. That's a neat feeling in the hip that looks kind of funny. So you can keep it in your party trick yoga file. So this is a great way to open the hips. And of course, still working in a lot of strengthening in the legs and balancing in the core. And the playfulness itself is its own benefit. A lot of us think I certainly do. So, and each side might be different. That's okay. Just let it be different. See where this side is going to go. So this side, I think it won't go as low this time, and that's okay. So maybe I won't do the party trick. And then just keep my hands here the whole time. You can always start over. You can change the height you're at. You can choose to come out, or maybe you fall. Sometime before this is done, I'm really going to fall, and we'll see. Try to slow it down and prevent the falling. But it's always more important to get both feet back on the ground. Ooh, and it's hot. While you're drinking. Even if you're practicing in an air-conditioned space, you do a lot of standing on one leg, it will get hot. So next, I will play with the third one that starts the same way. This one I don't actually know a name for. I should look this up, and I didn't. Just being honest about that. With the hands apart, shift back and forth again. Bring the weight to one leg, lift the knee. Now keep this hand on the chest. This hand is going to come down. There are lots of options here. I'm going to grab, my go-to is to grab my big toe in my first two fingers like that. Thumb and two fingers. Now, lots of options. You can grab the inside of your foot or the outside of your foot. You can grab your ankle or your shin, front of your knee, or the back of your knee. Any of those options is totally fine. And I'm a big believer in options and choice. So from here, and I'm pressing this hand in, I'm keeping my spine long. If you want, you can extend the leg forward. You don't have to. Keep it bent, which might be better. If you're holding like here, it's easier to keep the knee bent. It's going to get trickier if you straighten your leg. So if you want, you can extend forward. If you want, you can extend to the side, and you could extend to the side without lengthening the leg like that. Lots of options, lots of funny shapes. And if you want, you can reach the opposite way with this hand. Make sure you're breathing. That goes for any extended balances. And when you want to come out, see if you can do it slowly because there's strength in the slowness. Now you probably won't talk the whole time you're doing this, and that will make it easier. That's the largely unspoken fact about teaching yoga. Everything's trickier to do when you're talking. If you can just do it and not talk, it's easier. Simpler, right? Focus just on the doing. So by now, I'm really feeling this in my hips. As I said at the beginning, maybe you don't want to do all of these in one day. Oh, for this second side, we'll show some variation. I almost forgot to do. Maybe you have trouble reaching your foot or finding a comfortable grip with your leg. We can use a strap to play with this one too. So I have my strap doubled up. You might even tie a little loop if you have a strap with buckles. This is an old karate belt. It's not got a buckle on it. So what it can do, and you can even do it before you pick your foot up. You can just get the strap under your foot down here. Maybe that's the simplest way to do it, instead of trying to lasso your foot while you're holding your leg in the air. So come up like this, and you have the same options. So you could reach your foot forward, but you could just keep the knee bent. And you could open out to the side, and you could do that whether the leg is bent or not. I like to go forward and then to the side. It feels very unsteady to me to bend and unbend my leg when it's out to the side. So for me, it feels better to come here and then forward, then out. And then if you want, you can extend the other hand. And I never said gracefully, and I never will unless it's in quotes like that. I don't have enough hands to make air quotes, but you heard me say it in quotes. I'm getting tired. I'm going to try a slow rewind to come out with control. And I did. And that's the one and only thing I need this for today. Need more water. Next is Warrior 3. For Warrior 3, and for the one after that, Half Moon, we can use blocks. Now, maybe you already know Warrior 3 and or Half Moon. You know you can do them without blocks. So Warrior 3, this is just the gentlest way to come into Warrior 3, with your blocks standing tall. And you might also just do this by standing close to the wall, like you have one hand on the wall or a desk or something. I'm going to shift the weight into one leg. It's good to alternate legs. So I was just on my left leg. I'm going to come to my right leg. You're going to lift the other foot up and back like you want to make a footprint on the wall. So maybe you don't see yourself on video or in the mirror, but you want to picture your torso parallel to the ground, about like that. And you can play with how much you're going to use the blocks. Maybe one hand comes to your heart, maybe both. And if you feel steady enough, you can play with reaching back or to the sides or forward. You can always come out and start over. You can even, if you feel steady and adventurous, you can play with binds here too. Exhale as you lower your leg to come out. Inhale to stand, and we shake things out. So that's Warrior 3. And Warrior 3 is a good transition for getting to Half Moon pose. So I'm not going to do the full sequence on both sides. I'm just going to switch legs to Warrior 3 again and show you Half Moon. I know from experience that my Half Moon is stronger on one side than on the other, so I'm going to show you the stronger side. So I come to Warrior 3 on this side. And then for Half Moon, I'm going to keep this hand on the block the whole time with my left hand. From Warrior 3, bring the hand to your hip, and you're going to peel your hip back to stack your hips. So now my right hip is above my left, which is above my knee and my ankle. And then if you're steady enough, you can reach the other hand up and stack your hands. Make sure you're breathing, remember, on all of them. And the great thing about these two, I'm not doing it now, but you can do this whole thing against the wall. I'll come out and show you. And it didn't come out in the same order it came in. It's not critical, but it's nicer if you can. So you can do the whole thing at the wall. And this, in particular for Half Moon, the wall is great. This Half Moon, it's tricky to balance all that. And you can go like this, and I'm just leaning against the wall. My shoulder blades and my butt and the heel and the hand are all on the wall. And then you can play with coming off the wall. So now there's one cheek on the wall. Now I'm not on the wall. Yep. Okay. Now I'm not on the wall. And you can play with that. So that's a lot more effort. And then boom, a little shift on the walls there. And now I'll come out the same order I came in. Another way some people like to do half moon with the wall. You don't have to do warrior three to get to half moon. Some people like to have the block in their hand, and you can stand against the wall, tip down like this with the block in your hand. And maybe start on the wall, it helps align you too. If you have both shoulder blades and both cheeks on the wall, then the joints are stacked. And then you can come off the wall whenever you feel like. And shake the legs out. It's good after any of the standing balances. Another one we can play with, and actually I said I wouldn't use the strap again. We can use the strap for this one. I'll try it on the second leg. Is dancer pose. Is a great standing balance and also a really deep quad stretch and shoulder opener. So dancer pose is this one. I'll show you quick first and then slow it down. This is dancer. Now for the hand holding the foot is where we have a lot of different options about how the grip goes. I'm going to turn around so I can show you some different things. So that was sort of the simple one that I just did. Reach the heel up towards the butt and I grab the outside of my foot. Now, as the knee comes back, we want to keep this knee in line with the hips. So you might find as you start to come into the pose that your knee goes out to the side and the whole thing gets twisty. That's going to be less steady. One way to keep the knee in line with the hip towards the midline is to change the grip. So if I reach my hand out to the side, turn my thumb down, and then reach back, I can grab the inside of my foot. And maybe you can't do that, maybe you can. But if you can, this grip draws the knee towards the midline. So as I come in, I'm more centered. So you can choose either of those grips. Draw the knee back and let the torso tip forward. You can always grab the wall. If you're close by the wall or the desk, right? Reach forward, nice long spine, gentle curve. Now, maybe you have trouble holding your foot for some reason. Here's where, as I said, I'm correcting myself and bringing in the strap for a second pose when I said I was done with it. So you can move the foot in the strap like that. So the strap's going across the front of my ankle at the top of my foot. Other hand presses to sternum. Lift the foot, so it's a little tricky. And bring the strap over the leg. And if you'd rather lift your foot and then drop the strap over your shoulder and try to catch your foot, you can, like a little fishing expedition. You can use the strap like this to hold your knee and tip your torso forward as you draw the knee back, and then reach the other hand forward. And there he is. See, I told you that sooner or later I would fall. I fell and grabbed the wall. Coming out with whatever slowness you can muster, finding strength in the slowness. So that's a lot of standing balances in a short amount of time. So maybe that's a good practice for you. Maybe you just use these things to incorporate into different practices. You don't have to do all of this at once, but sometimes it's just fun to play with a certain category or a certain area. Maybe you just feel like sweating a lot today. If you do this all at once. Sweating is good for the body too. Thank you for joining me. The light within me sees and honors that light within you. See you next time.